watching KCRG TV 9. Now, from your 24-hour news source, this is KCRG TV 9 News at 10.
What do we want? What do we want it now? Protesters rallied and marched in streets across eastern Iowa today, including this one in Cedar Rapids. It's part of nationwide anger and calls for change after the death of George Floyd while in police custody. A view from above shows thousands marching through downtown Cedar Rapids. It all led up to this, a moment of silence, some laying down in First Avenue, others kneeling for 8 minutes and 46 seconds, symbolizing the time a police officer kneeled on George Floyd's neck.
You're not gonna get action overnight. We've already made commitments. I've been meeting with y'all.
And in Iowa City, tensions with elected officials and constituents rose during speeches today. You could hear it in her voice.
Several elected leaders in Iowa City joined protesters for their march tonight, urging them to keep these events peaceful.
While protesters have had a similar path the past 3 nights, winding through the streets of Iowa City for hours, tonight some have headed in another direction, this time toward Kinnick Stadium. KCRG TV 9's Aaron Hossman joins us live tonight from outside of Kinnick. So, Aaron, what is happening right now in Iowa City?
Well, there's not many demonstrators to be found here outside Kinnick Stadium right now. Just proof that they were here, actually. There's spray painting. I'm going to step out of the way so you can see here some spray painting alongside the outside of the stadium itself. Also, some spray paint on Kinnick, the statue of Kinnick, as well. Also on the floor. Cops are here currently monitoring the situation, but again, no demonstrators here. Now, this all started earlier this evening at the University of Iowa's Pentecrest. It was there where local politicians, county board members, and state senators gathered here to speak with organizers. However, things did get a bit tense. Organizers said they wanted to hear more specifics from those leaders about what they would do to meet a list of demands that were presented to them. They felt those leaders were not being direct enough in their explanation or plans of actions. Now, State Senator Joe Bolcom of Iowa City was there on stage. He told the group that it takes a lot of time and a lot of people to make change happen, and it doesn't happen overnight. Here's what he had to say.
I think there's a lot of justified anger tonight, and from some of the folks here that want to see progress. I mean, we've had just many cases of police misconduct on one hand. We also have enormous health inequities, education inequities, economic security issues. There are a lot of issues of the black and brown community that have just simply not been addressed, and we felt some of that anger here tonight.
Bolcom says it may be difficult to get that meeting scheduled with the governor, but he does believe the governor is open to listening. Now, as far as that list of demands, there were 13 demands, and here are a few that I jotted down, including legalizing marijuana, dropping any charges or citations against protesters over the last few nights, and including cutting the Iowa City Police Department budget and using that money for a variety of social services. As far as demonstrations continuing here in Iowa City, no word yet if those demonstrations are over, if they've moved to any other areas. They were urged to not go to the interstate again this night. That's about everything we've got here for you. In the meantime, we'll throw it back to Taylor and Beth.
Thanks, Aaron. And people in Cedar Rapids also protested the death of George Floyd, calling for better policing practices and an end to racism in all its forms.
People started gathering at Green Square before 5 this evening. Thousands convened to hear speakers and march together peacefully. KCRG TV 9's Brian Tabak joins us live with what people said that moved them to be part of today's event. Brian?
Yeah, Beth, like you said, thousands of people marched through the downtown area just a couple of hours ago. I spoke to a number of them who say they want change, and that change needs to happen now.
What do you think of me today? Do you think different of me? Am I different than I am with you in the boardroom?
Passionate speeches, a march through the downtown area, and blocking First Avenue on their stomachs for 8 minutes and 46 seconds. The same amount of time George Floyd was held down by an officer.
No humanity, you know what I'm saying? We all humans at the end of the day, and that you just can't have no humanity to stand on somebody's neck till they die.
Emotions and protesters are running high, but they say ending racism can't be done alone.
You have to understand that
America has criminalized dark skin, and this whole movement is saying we're getting rid of that. You know, if we come together and we march, it's not because we want to cause problems, it's because we want to be heard.
That's exactly what's happening today. A peaceful protest bringing everyone together.
Just being able to come together with all the diversity, doesn't matter what color you are, what race, what gender, what sexuality, that we're all people and we need to unite together to be able to have that justice for everyone.
To send a message that racism is unacceptable and change is needed.
People can come together and love each other and support each other. I think that's the main thing, like people just coming together and, you know, celebrating life itself.
We just want justice for Breonna Taylor. We want justice for George Floyd. We want justice for all the black men and women that have died by the hands of police, and not just police, but white supremacists that basically act like they the police.
Organizers say by being able to keep this event peaceful, they'll be able to hold similar events of similar sizes in the future. Live in downtown Cedar Rapids, Brian Tabbitt, KCRG TV 9 News.
The Cedar Rapids police chief announced at that protest today a change in policy. He's requiring officers to intervene if they witness another officer using force that is unnecessary or unlawful. By winning over a skeptical public, especially among the black community, will take more than words from a podium. That's something he acknowledged as other leaders promise to follow through on the promise of today's peaceful event.
The fact that he was killed by a police officer, the very person sworn to protect him, is what brings us here today.
Chief Wayne German used the word murder repeatedly when describing what happened to George Floyd in Minneapolis. He told the crowd he would listen and that he'd already started making reforms within the Cedar Rapids Police Department.
This change in our policy was just a start, and I'm committing to continue to have these conversations to enhance change so we never have another senseless loss of life such as the murder of George Floyd.
There were many signs in the crowd demanding better policing, more accountability. One demand of protesters around the country is citizen review boards to allow community members to review the findings of internal police investigations, like in the case of Jeremy Mitchell, who spoke to the crowd. He was paralyzed after a Cedar Rapids officer shot him in 2016 during an altercation that started when the officer pulled him over for a broken license plate light.
Because I fear for my life too, just like you did. And the only difference is you have a badge. So you use that badge as protection, and you use those words for protection. Even though you know you've messed up.
City and county leaders told the crowd now things are different. This moment isn't like any other, and that unity is possible even if anguish brought people here.
We're telling people that silence is no longer an option for any of us.
We can support our black sisters and brothers who have been brutalized by police officers for centuries, while also working to reform the system with folks on both sides who are genuinely interested in results.
The strength and conditioning coach for the Iowa Hawkeye football program is now on administrative leave.
That news came tonight from head coach Kirk Ferentz as some former players wrote on Twitter about negative experiences at the university as a black student athlete. KCRG TV 9's Chris Earl takes us through today's developments and the latest statements from the program. Chris?
Taylor, the story really developed last night when Chicago Bears offensive guard James Daniels, who played for Iowa from 2015 to 2017, wrote on Twitter, quote, "There are too many racial disparities in the Iowa football program. Black players have been treated unfairly for far too long." After Daniels' initial post, many former players, some his teammates at Iowa, also shared their stories from playing. A frequent theme emerged: the strength and conditioning coach Chris Doyle and their allegations of racially insensitive comments from Doyle towards some players. Today, Iowa head coach Kirk Ferentz announced that Doyle is on administrative leave. Ferentz brought Doyle with him in 1999 when he came to Iowa's head coach. In a 2-minute-long video statement released tonight, Ferentz talked about the need for change within his program.
In our program, we have high standards, accountability, and we have a good team of players, coaches, and staff members. But it's clear we can all do more to creating a better environment, a respectful environment, one where every player can grow, develop, and become the best version of himself.
Ferentz also said that several of his players contacted him this week to lift the program's ban on football players using social media. He agreed to this. He also said this in the statement, quote, "As I told the team earlier this week, I'm a white football coach. Teaching is what I do, but it's also important to know when to be the student." Live in the TV9 studio, Chris Earl, KCRG, TV9 News.
And now here's meteorologist Kaylee Pluchel with a check of your first alert forecast.
And for the most part, most of us have stayed dry for the beginning of the weekend, but I do want to take you to pinpoint Doppler Radar tonight, where we did see a few rain and thunderstorms pop up in the northern portions of our area. They have been pushing west to east and are impacting areas like Decorah, Fort Atkinson, as well as West Union. They moved just north of the Lafayette area, but as we widen out our view, we're not seeing really anywhere else seeing these rain and thunderstorms, and they really have decreased as they've headed towards the Mississippi River, which is the good news. A live look here from our Fayette City Cam tonight, where again it is pretty quiet overall, and again these storms moved just north of that area. As far as temperatures are concerned, we've cooled down quite a bit, but some areas are still holding into the 70s and 80s. We are tracking a breezy end to the weekend. We'll track that out as when we could see rain and thunderstorms likely across eastern Iowa in just a few minutes.
A judge has sentenced a Waterloo woman in the overdose death of a toddler. A Polk County judge sentenced 39-year-old Amanda Leonard to probation Thursday for felony neglect of a dependent person. Investigators say Leonard Hellam did not get medical attention for the 2-year-old who swallowed medication while riding in her car. Police say she was driving from Waterloo to visit her boyfriend in Des Moines back in June of 2019. Authorities found the child dead at the boyfriend's apartment the next morning.
2 police officers from Buffalo, New York are now facing criminal charges.
This is in connection with the caught-on-video shoving of a 75-year-old man during a protest.
You're watching your 24-hour news source, KCRG TV9, with Taylor Holt, meteorologist Kaylee Pluchel, and Josh Christensen with sports. This is KCRG TV9 News at 10.
Right now at 6, dangers of the job. An ODOT employee talks about life on a busy highway following the death of a construction worker.
It took less than an hour to get an escaped teen back in custody. We sit down with the woman who pointed police in the right direction.
And 4 months later, when Toledo police say that their body cameras will finally be back on officers.
You are watching NBC 24 News at 6 with Ryan Cummings, Jamie Innes, and Kimberly Newman.
Right now at 6, we are following breaking news out of Destin, Florida, where 4 people have died following a plane crash. The aircraft is believed to have taken off from Toledo.
These are photos from Nick Tomachek with the Northwest Florida Daily newspaper. It's reporting the plane took off from the Toledo Express Airport around 7:15 this morning. The plane went down near the Eglin Air Force Base during landing and then caught fire. The NTSB is headed there from Dallas. Right now, we have not been told how many people were on board.
New at 6 tonight, an elderly woman in Toledo died this morning after her home caught fire. This was on Oakwood around 4:45. People called 911 saying that they could see the smoke coming from the home. Crews found that woman on the 2nd floor. She was alive but later died at the hospital. Her son, though, did make it out okay.
New at 6, Michigan State Police are investigating a deadly motorcycle crash in Monroe County. It happened last night in London Township. They say Jacob Ramsey tried passing a school bus on his bike but crashed into a car that was turning into a driveway. The 28-year-old from Ypsilanti died. No one else was hurt. Friends and family are mourning the death of a construction worker. Nathan Soto from Napoleon was hit and killed yesterday while working along US 24 near the Shops of Fallen Timbers. OSHP says the driver hit the worker while changing lanes. They're still deciding whether he will face charges. ODOT is using that accident to remind drivers of the safety rules in construction zones.
It is dangerous for workers on the highway, and one of them spoke with NBC 24's Toy Creel. She is live in Toledo near the Indiana Avenue overpass. Toy.
That's right. For a lot of us, it's just the highway is just a place that we go driving to our destinations. But for construction workers, it's their workspace, one that can be dangerous if people don't follow the rules. And as we saw yesterday, even deadly.
It's scary. The people drive by at 70, 75, 80, pushing the speed limit. It's not a safe place to be no matter where you're at.
Andrew Beaverson is on highways and in construction and work zones every day. He's a transportation manager at the Northwood Garage for the Ohio Department of Transportation.
Our people here in the garage do a lot of maintenance out on the road. I do the best I can to assist them.
It's part of his job to frequent dangerous roads, but that doesn't make things any less frightening, especially after Wednesday's tragedy when a contractor working on an ODOT project was killed.
People's lives are at stake out there every day, not only ours, but construction workers from other groups, tow operators, state patrolmen, and even just stranded pedestrians.
Ohio revised code calls for increased penalties for traffic violations in construction zones. That can mean fines as high as $150.
It's important to do your best to make sure you abide by the speed limit. It's going to be posted somewhere in the zone, and then also if you're around workers, to try to slow down and move over if possible.
There are 43 construction projects across ODOT's 8 Northwest Ohio counties. In light of this recent tragedy, they're reminding drivers to navigate the roads with workers in mind.
Our folks are out there every day, and we fear for them as much as they fear for them.
Now, the reduced speed zones do apply in zones even if workers aren't present. Coming up at 11, we're going to break down those fines for people speeding in those zones and how much you could pay. Reporting live in Toledo, Toy Creel, NBC 24 News.
This summer, a section of the Ohio Turnpike was marked in memory of another worker killed on the job. Kenneth Geiger died back in 1983, and these signs went up this June at mile marker 47. The commission hopes the sign will remind drivers of the significance behind the move over law.
You're watching the Weather Authority, NBC 24.
Speaking of out there on the roads tonight, it looks like traffic is moving smoothly out there. This is down near Findlay. You're kind of getting a view of just about everywhere in the region. I-75 at US 224, dry roads for the next 24 hours. But tomorrow, we might see a touch of fog, so that could slow things down just a little bit. Today, we had a temperature of 78 degrees, just below average. We should typically still be in the 80s through late August. However, as we move forward, some warmer weather will be coming back into play. We'll start off your Friday with temperatures in the 50s and 60s, warming tomorrow afternoon into the lower 80s. More of that heat on its way this weekend. I'll detail that for you coming up in my full forecast.
We have an update now on yesterday's prison drug scare in Ross County. A mixture of heroin and fentanyl is being blamed on getting nearly 30 people sick in Chillicothe. Guards, nurses, and inmates were sick after that drug got into the air ducts at Ross Correctional Institution. An inmate first showed the signs of an overdose. That person was unconscious and not breathing when taken to the hospital, but should recover. The others experienced nausea, sweating, and numbness.
With the recent hazmat situations in Northwest Ohio, the University of Toledo and Lucas County Health Department are working together. Today they came together to share ideas to combat the opioid crisis. They are working with organizations, treatment facilities, and religious-based organizations to get on board. They want to pass out toolkits to local companies. Those kits would have videos, websites, phone numbers, and other information on how to get help if you're struggling with addiction.
Going to actually give the community the ability to understand better the opiate concerns, bring it home to them in a very condensed and hopefully relatively simplistic way.
The health department hopes to have plans set in place by late winter.
He's only a teen, but a 15-year-old could be facing more charges after he broke out of a juvenile residential center in Bowling Green last night.
A woman was out walking her dog. She called police because that boy had been following her. NBC 24's Bree Malaska is the only reporter to sit down with her. She explains what seemed wrong. It's new tonight at 6.
Less than an hour after escaping from the residential center, he was back in custody. Police say it would have taken much longer if it weren't for the 911 call. Bowling Green State University student Gracie Stewart was walking her dog when she noticed something wasn't right and she was being followed.
He was definitely not a college student walking around. He had a huge sweatshirt on and gray pants, no shoes.
A 15-year-old boy from Henry County escaped from the juvenile residential center in Bowling Green by using a chair to break out a window. He ran to the Copper Beach apartment complex less than a mile away, which is where he was spotted trying to break into cars. That's when Gracie called 911.
But it was definitely not a situation that I felt safe walking home to my apartment to show him where I lived. So I just kept walking, and then once the car alarm went off, I was like, okay, obviously he was not meant to be here.
BG police say they were already on the lookout for the escapee and had established a perimeter with a canine unit tracking the juvenile. They arrived at the neighborhood and took him into custody without incident not too far away.
Our officer that was on East Wooster ended up observing Young in a wooded area on East Wooster near I-75 where the overpass was. Upon taking him into custody, we ended up finding that his hands were cut up pretty good, likely from exiting the window.
Juvenile court officials say the residential center is different from the detention center. It's a long-term treatment facility, but juveniles are there on court order, so he could face felony escape charges. Now, the juvenile court judge tells me that individual did have a hearing earlier today to determine if he should stay in the detention center or be transferred back to the residential center. For now, reporting in Bowling Green, Bree Malaska, NBC 24 News.
New at 6 tonight, Toledo police are finally getting new body cameras. The department has been testing them out for several months with several companies. Officers returned 304 cameras back in April because of issues with data downloads. The department has now decided to go with a manufacturer called G-Tech. It will use the refund of $228,000 in grant money to buy the new ones.
Nothing went away when we had to return the body cameras. We maintained the dash cam footage. So we have footage in our interview rooms and in our vehicles, all of our field operations, and then our gang unit and SWAT unit.
He says that TPD hopes to have those body cams up and running by November.
New at 6, the Ohio Attorney General's office says new bulletproof vests are going out to all BCI agents. Democratic leaders came out to one government center today calling on Mike DeWine to release records surrounding those vests. The Fraternal Order of Police had complained, saying agents were allowed to use expired vests. They also say the AG's office only ordered new ones after political pressure.
Don't worry about the election. Just do the right thing. Make sure these officers, their families, and Ohioans know how this happened and make sure that it will never happen again.
It is worth noting the FOP has already endorsed Mike DeWine's opponent in the governor's race, Richard Cordray, and Betty Sutton, you just heard there.
DeWine says he was made aware of this issue, and he asked BCI administration to immediately schedule fittings for the remaining affected agents, saying that all vests for those affected agents not on leave have already been delivered.
Kimberly's back with a look at your Labor Day forecast coming up.
But first, Rocket fans getting into the team spirit with football season about to start. Good food and cheers. We're going to take you to that pep rally at Levis Commons.
Is KCRG TV 9 News at 6.
Protesters are filling Green Square in downtown Cedar Rapids. You are looking live where people are right now listening to speeches against police brutality and the death of George Floyd in Minneapolis. KCRG TV 9's Chris Earl and Brian Tabak are bringing us live team coverage from Cedar Rapids tonight.
And here's a live look at demonstrators in Lafayette Park in Washington, D.C. It's expected to be the city's largest demonstration yet. Authorities estimate about 200,000 people will take part in demonstrations there.
George Floyd died in police custody nearly 2 weeks ago after an officer held his knee on his neck for nearly 9 minutes. Police were arresting him for trying to pass a fake $20 bill at a convenience store. Now, former officer Derek Chauvin is charged with second-degree murder. The 3 officers who were there are charged with aiding and abetting murder. A huge crowd is there in Cedar Rapids tonight for what organizers are calling a peaceful protest.
KCRG TV 9's Chris Earl begins our team coverage from above the crowd. Chris?
Good evening, Taylor. Good evening, Beth. Yes, we are on top of the Gazette building here at the corner of 5th Street Southeast and 3rd Avenue. This actually gives us an ideal vantage point as this is about to start here at 6 o'clock. But for the past hour plus, people, hundreds at first and now well into the thousands, it seems, when you just kind of count the number of people who are here, have been gathering to this point here at Green Square. And we've had a series of speakers throughout much of the past hour. People are getting up to share their experiences, maybe a family member's experience, their own experience with racial inequality or racial injustice There's certain incidents that certainly may not seem right to their vantage point. But for today, it has been very peaceful at this point, very respectful. People will share their experiences, and then there will be applause coming from the crowd for about 10 or 15 seconds, and then more sentences or more words might come from that speaker or another speaker. See plenty of signs, people calling for not just racial injustice, but talking about ending, what I saw on one sign, ending street executions, referencing what has happened in some parts of the U.S. Also, right down here at the corner, First Presbyterian Church, just right here across the street about 15 minutes ago, there was a very moving moment. You saw about 3 or 4 people, hands together, praying at this moment before they then walked across to Green Square. As we can hear the crowd kind of picking up a little bit more as we're awaiting moving from Green Square throughout parts of downtown where other events we planned for tonight. But this has been really an event where so many people for the past hour plus have been making their way here to Green Square for this this moment that has been planned out for days, and we'll certainly be covering it. We'll be at different vantage points looking from the sky through our drone photography, because we also have crews on the ground as well too. But when you can go up high, you can also see the size and the scope of this gathering. So reporting live from downtown Cedar Rapids, Chris Earl, KCRG TV9 News.
Thanks, Chris. And tonight, TV9's Brian Tabak is on the ground near protests in Cedar Rapids.
And Brian, what are you hearing from the people and those speeches so far?
Hundreds of people are standing here in Green Square. You see behind me, the speakers have been very passionate. Supervisor Stacy Walker says he's emailing all of the police chiefs throughout the state, asking them not to use chemical agents on protesters who are acting peacefully. The police chief, Wayne German, says that he is working with the city council on some types of reform. The biggest message is that they are urging people to stay peaceful and saying that if you don't stay peaceful, they're asking you to go home.
We can come out here and protest and demand changes and make them happen, and we don't have to stop until we see that happen. And it's about everybody coming together to really demand those changes.
At 6 o'clock, we are going to start walking down 3rd Avenue towards the bridge, so we will bring you continuous coverage of this rally. In downtown Cedar Rapids, Brian Tabak, KCRG TV9 News.
We're done going to the interstate. That's not me.
Nope.
It's not what we need, because the message is getting distorted.
City leaders in Iowa City there are urging protesters in that community to stay off of Interstate 80 tonight. The DOT closed the interstate Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday evenings and forced traffic through a lengthy detour. Protesters got onto the interstate 2 of those 3 nights. Tonight, city leaders don't want to have to close the interstate again due to the demonstrations, but they do support the protests. The mayor of Iowa City, Bruce Teague, is joining demonstrators tonight. One of the protests starts in less than an hour at the Pentecrest, and that's where KCRG TV9's Aaron Hossman joins us now live. Aaron?
Yes, I'm here at the Pentecrest outside the old Capitol on the University of Iowa's campus. Now, this spot has kind of acted as a meeting spot for demonstrators for the past few nights to hold speeches and talk and gather before planning their marches throughout town as we've seen the past few nights. Now, earlier this afternoon in Iowa City at Mercer Park, hundreds and hundreds of people gathered there for an open forum led by Mayor Bruce Teague and other city council members, along with Johnson County Board of Supervisors member Royce A. Porter. That's where people could, voice their concerns, talk about what changes these demonstrators really want from the city and how the city can help facilitate those. Now, as Beth just said, that's also where the mayor and also Royce Ann called for these demonstrators to not even try to head towards the interstate tonight via Dubuque Street. They don't want to close that portion of the interstate. Again, they're really calling for people and loved ones, if you know of anyone that are going out to these demonstrators, to talk to them and ask them to not make their way to the interstate once again. Now, back here at the Pentecrest, Again, at 7 o'clock, they're expected to gather before heading around through town again tonight. Now, we've been told that they're actually marching through town right now, and they've been doing that all day. Now, when they come here at 7 o'clock, they can expect to see some changes. The University of Iowa, has added some different things for these protesters. I'm going to step out of the way. You can see a stage along with microphones and speakers so they can actually hear their voices and gather in an organized way. The university's also added a fence around the old Capitol, they say, to stop from any potentially dangerous climbing. They've also preserved a memorial that's been added for Breonna Taylor here, and they've also added some barricades so cars cannot drive onto the Pentecrest. Now again, 7 o'clock, we're expecting to see these gatherings begin once again, and we'll bring you some more updates live from Iowa City. In the meantime, back to Taylor and Beth.
And switching gears to weather, here's meteorologist Kaylee Pluchel with a check of your first alert forecast.
And it's been an absolutely gorgeous start of the weekend. We're talking warm temperatures, plenty of sunshine, and low humidity. Let's take a look outside on a couple of our city cams across the area. A few more clouds have pushed in, but overall it's been a very, very nice start to the weekend. Temperatures right now 82 in Cedar Rapids, 83 in Tama. We're at 82 in Waterloo, low 80s as well in Manchester and Fayette, 79 in Dubuque, 78 in Prairie du Chien, getting a little bit of that cooling effect from the Mississippi River. Down towards the south, though, 90 in Mount Pleasant and Oskaloosa, 88 right now in Washington. And if you're planning on taking your dog for a walk, doing anything outside tonight, it is going to continue to stay nice. 83 degrees by 7, upper 70s at 8, down to 75 degrees by 9 o'clock. You're going to be good to go. Partly cloudy skies, east winds between 5 and 10 miles per hour. As far as your sidewalk chalk forecast is concerned, at least over the next couple of days, we're going to stay dry. It's not going to be washed away. That's going to be a different story, though, as we head towards Tuesday, as the remnants of a tropical storm could impact us right here in eastern Iowa. We'll talk about that as well as a breezy end to the weekend in just a few minutes.
Thank you, Kaylee. Well, mourners gathered to remember George Floyd today at a memorial service in the state where he was born, North Carolina.
His death in police custody sparking protests across the globe, calling for change in policing practices. Here's a live look at a protest happening in Washington, D.C., where about 200,000 protesters are gathered at Lafayette Park. This is the city's largest demonstration yet against police brutality. Military vehicles and officers closed off much of downtown Washington for this march. Long lines of mourners came to pay their respects to the father who was killed on May 25th in Minneapolis by former police officer Derek Chauvin. Chauvin is seen on video holding his knee on Floyd's neck for more than 8 minutes. Others across the nation are protesting, calling for an end to racism and police brutality. One protester says it's a cause she's willing to risk her life for.
So I tell everyone every time we do protests, if you're not willing to risk your life for this, then you shouldn't be out here. Because at the end of the day, I don't care if I lose my life if that means my nieces and my nephews won't have to deal with someone invalidating them because of the color of their skin.
Floyd will be laid to rest in Houston on Tuesday. Former officer Chauvin is set to face a judge on Monday on second-degree murder charges. And here's another live look at the protests happening right now in Cedar Rapids. We'll be right back with more coverage of the protests happening tonight. Stay with your 24-hour news source, KCRG TV 9.
You're watching your 24-hour news source, KCRG TV 9, with Taylor Holt, meteorologist Kaylee Pluchel, and Josh Christensen with sports. This is KCRG TV 9 News at 6.
Here is a live look at Green Square in Cedar Rapids, where a large crowd has gathered tonight. Speeches have been going on for more than an hour now before a march later tonight. TV 9's Chris Earl and Brian Tabak will join us live in just a minute. But moments ago, the Iowa Hawkeyes placed strength coach Chris Doyle on administrative leave.
Yeah, that stems from accusation from former Hawkeye players saying black student athletes were treated differently in the program. And just moments ago, Coach Kirk Ferentz announced that Chris Doyle's been placed on administrative leave while an independent review takes place. Friday, James Daniels, now an offensive guard with the Bears, wrote on Twitter, quote, quote, "There are too many racial disparities in the Iowa football program. Black players have been treated unfairly for far too long." Daniels played for Iowa for 3 seasons, from 2016 to 2017, before the Chicago Bears drafted him. Other former Iowa student athletes then responded with their own experiences. Daniels also posted screen grabs from them, from texts from those former teammates. Some of the responses singled out that strength and conditioning coach, Chris Doyle. He joined Iowa in 1999. That's the same year Kirk Ferentz became head coach. We will have more about this coming up tonight on the TV9 News at 10.
Well, people could drive through the downtown Cedar Rapids Farmers Market to pick up their purchases today. The market did adapt due to COVID-19 this year. People needed to make purchases online earlier this week. After that, customers received an order number. People then displayed that number along with their last name on a piece of paper placed on their windshield. That way, vendors knew which order went to which car. One vendor tells TV9 he's grateful for the community's support for local vendors.
It was nice that the pre-orders seemed to work effectively, and we didn't do any advertising as we were just waiting to see exactly how it went on, but the Economic Alliance has the website with our products listed, and we had some dozens of orders, and so that was kind of encouraging that it just happened automatically, people wanting to keep the market going in some way.
The next farmers market will be later this month on June 20th. It will also be a drive-through market.
Now we're taking a live look at that protest we've been following. It's happening right now in Cedar Rapids, an enormous turnout. Earlier, demonstrators gathered. They're happening right now, gathering in Green Square in downtown Cedar Rapids. They're going to march after listening to speeches.
And we are anticipating a very nice night tonight, but it is still going to be hot. I want to give you a reminder to make sure that you're staying hydrated and that you're using that sunscreen, that UV index very high. That's going to continue into your Sunday. We'll have your Sunday forecast in just a few minutes. Stay with your 24-hour news and weather source, KCRG TV9.
Ignited by the death of George Floyd, and a race to end racial injustice are happening across the nation, as well as right here in eastern Iowa.
And demonstrators started to march just a bit ago in Cedar Rapids. KCRG TV9's Chris Earl is out. And Chris, what have you been seeing tonight?
Good evening, Taylor. Good evening, Beth. And for right now, what we're still seeing is thousands of people have gathered here at Green Square. Green Square is pretty much filled in at this point. I'll step out of the frame here. And instead of being on the move, we're still hearing from people. Right now, the woman who's talking right now encouraged people to stand up for justice, and that we're all human beings. That's led to very respectful applause as many people here again is still waiting for this to be on the move from the gathering at Green Square to various points throughout downtown Cedar Rapids before, as we understand it, coming back tonight at Green Square for a vigil tonight to try to shine that light on racial injustice, racial inequality that we're seeing in the U.S. in some places, as well as here in Cedar Rapids. And people have been talking for more than an hour at this point. And it's also interesting to see some of the others who are here. Salvation Army is here. Plenty of people are handing out water, just making sure that people on this night, it is very hot out here, not getting dehydrated. So as we're covering this as well with our team coverage between tonight and the TV9 News at 10, all points in between. And if anything happens afterwards, it's certainly worth covering. We'll be here on KCRG TV9 and KCRG.com. Reporting live from downtown Cedar Rapids, Chris Earl, KCRG TV9 News.
Now let's turn to an update on the latest coronavirus numbers. As of 5:30, the state now has 21,478 total cases of COVID-19. Of those, nearly 13,000 have recovered.
Since yesterday afternoon, the state also has reported 7 more deaths from the virus. That brings the state total to just short of 600.
Now, your first alert forecast with meteorologist Kaylee Pluchel.
And it's been an absolutely gorgeous start to the weekend. And the only thing we're going to have to worry about in your first alert over the next 24 hours is going to be some breezy conditions heading overnight tonight and into your Sunday. I think we're going to be good to go through around midnight. Once we head after midnight, though, wind gusts will start to move up to 20, 25, and even throughout the day on your Sunday could get upwards of 35 miles per hour. So let's get you straight to Pinpoint Futurecast. We'll start here overnight tonight at 1 a.m. Wind gusts between 25 and around 30 miles per hour. That's going to be probably probably the highest. Maybe some isolated places could see some wind gusts upwards of 40 miles per hour by around 5 a.m. Going to continue to see those high wind gusts through the late morning hours. They could start to die down as we head towards the early afternoon, 1, 2, 3 o'clock, between 15 and 25 miles per hour. But do anticipate those breezy conditions to be around all day on Sunday and even could continue into the beginning of the week as well. A live look here from the McGrath City Cam in the Amana colonies. We are starting to see some high-level cirrus clouds covering up that blue sky, but overall it is a nice night. It is quite warm out there. Again, make sure you're staying hydrated if you are outside. 82 degrees right now in Cedar Rapids, upper 70s in Dubuque, 84 in Iowa City, and as well as the Amana colonies. Waterloo at 82 degrees, winds between 5 and 15 miles per hour. Overnight tonight, upper 50s in our northeast zone, low 60s in our northwest, central, and southern zones. Expect partly cloudy skies overnight, and it is going to be a dry end to the weekend with those breezy conditions. Another warm day, a little bit more humid tomorrow than today. Highs near 84 in Tama, Cedar Rapids, Manchester, as well as Prairie du Chien, 83 in Fayette and Charles City, 86 towards the south in Iowa City, as well as Washington. Winds are going to be sustaining between 10 and 20 miles per hour, but again, those gusts could be upwards of 35. We do want to give you a reminder as well, the UV index going to be very high again tomorrow at 9 on our scale, which means skin damage can happen between 15 minutes, just like tonight, so do keep that in mind. Grab the sunglasses, hat, as well as the sunscreen tonight and tomorrow. In the rest of your 9-day forecast, 84 tomorrow, 90 for Monday. That's due to those southeast winds that are going to be pushing through tonight and tomorrow. Then we're going to bring in some tropical moisture as we head towards Tuesday. That's going to bring rain and thunderstorm chances through the area on Tuesday. Rain and thunderstorms going to be likely. Then cooler temperatures, highs only into the mid-70s, which is below average for this time of year.
Still feels good though.
Yes.
Thanks, Kaylee.
Well, we are continuing our coverage of protests that are happening tonight across eastern Iowa. This is a live look in Iowa City at the Pentacrest, where we understand people will start gathering later tonight. Stay with TV9.
We're continuing our coverage of protests across eastern Iowa on the death of George Floyd, who died in police custody.
And we are taking a look at demonstrations that are happening tonight. TV9's Brian Tabak joins us live from the protest at Green Square Park in Cedar Rapids. We've been hearing from a lot of speakers, including the police chief, Wayne German, who called Floyd's death a murder. Brian?
Enforcement officials and our elected officials.
Yeah, and right now they're going, the event organizers are talking about what they want to see as far as changes. Let's take a listen here real quick. They are talking, requesting a Citizens Review Board. They also want to hire and have a hiring and practicing incident and reduction frequently. They also want to ban chokeholds by police officers, decriminalize minor marijuana crimes, as well as more frequent and a better use of body cams. Now, there have been a number of requests that we've spoken to people today. The Cedar Rapids police chief has also said that he is working with the city council as part of the ongoing project. We are about to start getting moving right now, so we're going to send it back to you guys and start walking here very shortly. Live in downtown Cedar Rapids, Brian Tabak, KCRG, TV9 News.
And more protests are set to get started in Iowa City at 7 tonight. Iowa City Mayor Bruce Teague encouraged demonstrators to avoid protesting on the interstate, as they have a couple of times this week. KCRG TV9's Aaron Hossman is there, where protesters are starting to gather.
Yeah, a few folks have started gathering here. It's supposed to begin at 7 o'clock. This area of the Pentacrest has acted as a place to gather, demonstrators to gather over the last few nights, share speeches, share experiences, and talk about the changes they want to see within the community. Now, the University of Iowa said in a statement that the university and this Pentacrest has always been a place where people can practice their First Amendment rights, and that led them to setting up this stage and microphone behind me here, and speakers. They've also added a fence to help with demonstrator safety. They've also added a barricade to limit any vehicles from coming on the premises here. Now, as you heard already, at 7 o'clock, this is supposed to start, followed by a march. At least that's what's happened the last few nights. Now, earlier, the mayor and other local officials have warned demonstrators to please not head to the interstate, as they have the last few nights. So we will keep you updated as that develops. In the meantime, here in Iowa City, back to Taylor and Beth.
And Kaylee has a last look at the weather.
Yeah, and tonight going to continue to stay warm. We'll be into the 70s all the way through around midnight tonight. It is going to stay dry and nice though with that lower humidity. 68 degrees by 3 a.m. We drop into the low 60s overnight, up to 71 by 9 a.m. tomorrow. Winds are going to kick up after midnight tonight though, so do keep that in mind. And those are going to stick with us as we head towards Sunday as well. Back to you.
Thanks, Kaylee, and thank you for joining us for the KCRG TV9 News at 6.
Be sure to tune in tonight at 10 again. Until then, have a great evening.
Right now at 6, an update to last week's deadly shooting inside the TPD safety building. What we are learning about the officer who shot and killed this suspect. A holiday first for the Cedar Creek Church, what it took to get its services broadcast to prison inmates. And tracking Santa, he only has a few hours left to deliver presents before Christmas. Where he is tonight and who's watching his every move.
You are watching NBC 24 News at 6 with Ryan Cummings, Jamie Innes, and Kimberly Newman.
New at 6 tonight, we have new information about last week's deadly shooting inside the TPD safety building. We are learning more about the officer who killed a suspect. TPD says Carl Schwarzinski II shot 23-year-old Damon Barstad one time on December 20th. That officer, hired in November of 2010, works in the Field Operations Unit and is currently on leave. Police in Warren, Michigan say Barstad stabbed his 68-year-old grandmother to death on December 15th. And when he was in TPD custody, officers say he grabbed a taser and lunged at them. A U.S. judge has ordered North Korea to pay more than $500 million in a wrongful death suit filed by Otto Warmbier's parents. The Cincinnati native was arrested in North Korea in 2016 and sentenced to 15 years hard labor, accused of stealing a propaganda poster. The college student, though, died in June of 2017, shortly after returning to the U.S. in a coma. The ruling is symbolic, as there is no way to force North Korea to pay. Every week, thousands of people attend Cedar Creek Church, which has 6 locations all throughout our area, and those services are streamed online. They are now available for the first time ever to inmates at the Toledo Correctional Institution. NBC 24's Jay Hanna is live from the main campus tonight in Perrysburg. And Jay, this is the beginning of full-time services for the prison.
Ryan, they were able to watch Christmas Eve services throughout the day today. In the future, there has been a special channel added where inmates can watch every Cedar Creek service in each cell. It's a holiday tradition for many, Christmas Eve church service. Now inmates at the Toledo Correctional Institution can watch as well.
It doesn't matter who you are, where you came from, or what you did. And so we want to help as a church provide help and hope to anyone, wherever you are.
Cedar Creek Church has had Christmas services over the last few days, capping off with 4 on Christmas Eve. They will all be broadcast inside the prison.
We're hoping that this is planting a seed for when some of these inmates that are in the program now are leading the program and eventually transitioning into, into the outside world here and hearing how they've been impacted by the groups, by the other people that are praying for them, by the messages that they're seeing, just by that help and hope that's being provided every single day.
The idea stems from the decision to bring a national program, Celebrate Recovery, to Cedar Creek about 5 years ago. It is a 12-step program for anyone struggling with hurt, pain, or addiction. A volunteer at the church who participated in the program works at the correctional facility. They brought Celebrate Recovery there this summer.
They started this partnership where we could bring a national program called CR inside to the inmates to help provide some STEPS programs, Bible studies, and groups for the inmates as well.
The Christmas Eve services are only the beginning of the partnership. The Toledo Correctional Institution will have a channel dedicated to Cedar Creek year-round. Each service will be available to inmates. Cedar Creek Church hopes to hear success stories of inmates who go through Celebrate Recovery and watch their services before getting out.
One of the big things that we hope out of this is that it provides really good support not only for families but for the inmates themselves in transitioning out when they eventually get out of the facility as well, because we know that nationally a lot of churches have Celebrate Recovery and other recovery ministries, and we want to be able to tie them not only when they're inside but also when they get out as well, so that we can transition well.
The final Christmas Eve service will take place in just under an hour right here at Cedar Creek at 7 o'clock. You will be able to stream that online, and you will be able to find that link as well on this story at NBC24.com. Live here in Perrysburg, Jay Hanna, NBC 24 News.
You're watching the Weather Authority, NBC 24.
All right, it's another winter day, and yet again, more clouds from top to bottom, from Tolima all the way down to Lima. However, if we look just down to the southwest in Van Wert County, check that out. Some clearing going on, and so it looks like when Santa makes his rounds tonight, at least he won't have to deal with the cloud cover that we've been dealing with all day. Behind that, we have our next developing weather system here coming across northern Missouri and southern Iowa. Going to bring us a chance of some flurries for Christmas Day. I'll break that down hour by hour in my forecast. The next system I'm watching is going to be a pretty significant one, especially for us, bringing us a chance of rain and warmer temperatures as we go between Christmas and New Year's, right?
All right, thank you, Chris. Nearly 24 people are without a home tonight on Christmas Eve after their apartment building caught fire. It started around midnight in Wapakoneta on the 3rd floor of that unit that you see there that's burned at the top. Those flames quickly spread to the attic. Roughly 20 people live there. They did make it out okay. Investigators, though, are still trying to figure out how it all started. It is one of the busiest times of the year, of course, out on the roads, and gas prices finally below $2 in some spots. And that means more people will be out driving. State transportation officials say give yourself extra time this year. AAA predicts more than 4 million Ohioans will be going at least 50 miles or more from their home. I-75, 280 and the Turnpike, kind of busy this morning. We talked to people from all over who were out before Christmas.
Really wasn't bad. It was really pretty good today. So I don't know if a lot of people aren't traveling today or maybe already traveled or whatever.
Fortunately, Mother Nature's cooperating, so it's been clear sailing thus far, and the highway's pretty deserted.
We usually switch every hour and a half to 2 hours, just to make sure that the person driving is alert.
The last time that Christmas fell on a Tuesday was back in 2012, where Ohio saw an increase of travelers by nearly 40%. There is nothing like waiting until the last minute to shop, and that's what a lot of people did today, as some stores did stay open. The National Retail Federation says about 7% of Americans are still shopping for Christmas. Most major retailers opened up this morning and closed by dinner. Some places, though, if you still need a gift, are open tonight. Ross and Target both open until 10. People do love decorating for the holidays. Some people go all out, others go the extra mile. But as Tracy Carlos reports, an Ohio couple takes it to a whole new level.
2 months of work.
Dennis and I together both loved Christmas.
14 trains.
Christmas is about family and sharing.
And 356 houses.
It's not always the same every year.
The Hort family calls it Holidays Village at the Hort Resort. It started 12 years ago with 12 houses.
The 12, we went to probably 60, then 100, then 120. I mean, it's gone every year up to 356 houses.
The great room of this Middleburg Heights home now transformed into an elaborate village of days gone by. There is a post office, clock tower, pizza shop, even a News 5 tower, a casino, a football field, and an airport. And check out their ocean with real fish. At the heart of this village is family. Names of loved ones on train cars, houses of family members, and
the gondola, this is the grandchildren. There's a name for each grandchild on each car.
And the loved ones who have passed.
If someone has passed in our family, we put their picture by the house. So everyone who has passed, we recognize.
The village is never the same twice. It changes each time it goes up, which is now every other year. And the Hort family opens their doors to share their Christmas magic.
It's awesome, and everybody's friendly, and it's good to see the Christmas spirit and joy.
Good memories and real fish. All right, the government shutdown is not affecting NORAD. The North American Aerospace Defense Command is still tracking Santa tonight. It's done this now for 63 years. He just left Tunisia, headed to Algeria in about 1 minute. This year, military volunteers are helping track everything. About 1,500 people make this program possible. It's now done this for nearly 70 years. All right, still ahead tonight, a woman set out on adventures across the globe, now missing. Why her family says she was on a mission to see the world.
You are watching NBC 24 News at 6 with Ryan Cummings, Jamie Innes, and your Weather Authority forecast with meteorologist Kimberly Newman. This is NBC 24 News at 6.
This American woman here disappeared on a recent trip to Peru. And as Allie Hoxley reports, her family held a vigil in Detroit, praying for her safe return.
We know she's out alive.
Today, close friends and family of Carla Valpeos gathered at Belle Isle for a vigil to pray for her safe return.
I am asking, pleading, that everyone in their prayers, in their thoughts of Carla, be active, be present, and future, okay? Because we need to keep the story alive so that we have a chance to find Carla.
Carla Valpeos was in Peru for a wedding, on a mission to see the world. Doctors told her when she was 10 years old she would eventually become blind, and she has been gradually losing her vision ever since. A tour group visiting Machu Picchu were the last people to see her. Peruvian authorities say she was last seen on camera on the 12th, leaving a Cusco's hostel in a taxi.
We have a Peruvian government that's doing work extensively down there. They are on it, okay? They are working and they're helping.
The U.S. Department of State is also investigating.
I never imagined something like this. I have worked in areas where I have experience working with this situation, and the last thing I would have ever imagined to see my daughter in a similar poster, in a similar request for people to help her around the world to find her.
Still ahead tonight at 6, candidates for 2020's presidential run are already starting to line up. Who is now getting attention despite a lack of political experience? And here is a look at where Christians are around the world celebrating Jesus' birth. Thousands are in Bethlehem right now, where it's believed that he was born. Many are gathering to take part in a midnight mass there.
You're watching the Weather Authority, NBC 24.
The magical day is upon us. Christmas just a couple of hours away. Santa is around the world making his rounds, delivering all the presents as he gets in Toledo. And for when you're going to open his presents tomorrow, temperatures right around 36 degrees. Look how excited this elf is. He's pretty pumped up there. We're looking at a chance of flurries moving across the area earlier in the morning. Won't bring any travel impacts, so it'll most likely just be something to look at. So we're after Christmas, so we're looking at a warming trend coming into the area between Christmas and New Year's. With that, especially with all these systems we see in the wintertime that bring the warmer weather, it's usually accompanied by a good soaking rain, and this one is no different. After that, we're going to see a return to normal, and what I mean by that is much cooler temperatures, probably for an extended period of time. So let's first talk about those temperatures. For Christmas, temperatures right around 36 degrees, but look at Wednesday through Thursday, or Wednesday through Friday, I should say, and especially on Friday, temperatures close to 60 degrees, well above average, about 25 degrees above average. But then as we go to Saturday, the bottom drops out and temperatures are going to be back near freezing. Temperatures right now are just below freezing, 32 in Toledo, 30 in Bowling Green, 31 in Findlay, 29 up towards Halesdale and Bryan, and we're looking at a temperature right now of 30 degrees in Defiance. Expect temperatures to be pretty consistent for the rest of the night, holding right around 29 degrees. We're looking at a low tonight somewhere into the mid-20s. Here's those pesky clouds been hanging with us all day long, but there is some clearing going on down towards Van Wert County, and that is the trend for us. As we zoom out a little bit, you can see there's a nice little swath of drier air up towards South Bend, Indiana, and back towards Chicago, but our next system is not far off. You can see some of these showers in northeast Missouri and southeast Iowa, going to bring us a chance of some snow showers for Christmas Day. So let's go ahead and track that out for you. Here we go with the clearing skies tonight. So good job, or good news for Santa as he comes across the area. But as we go into Tuesday afternoon, you can see some of the spotty snow showers, especially in the westernmost parts of our county. Again, no accumulations are expected, and hopefully this happens during the early morning hours when you're opening gifts. So at least we don't have that white Christmas, but at least you do have some snow flurries to look at. We're going to be into dry skies going into Tuesday, and then as we go into Wednesday, our next significant weather system moves in here. This is going to be Thursday as we go on our future forecast, you can see this heavy rainfall coming across the central part of the country. Looks to be in here probably Thursday afternoon into Thursday night. The heaviest rain is going to occur Thursday night into Friday morning. And then at least on Friday, it'll be cloudy and probably still wet from the ground. But I think we're going to enjoy some temperatures into the 50s with some warmer weather. So tonight, looking at a low of 24 degrees with those clearing skies out there. Tomorrow, looking at a high of 36 degrees, those flurry chances into the morning hours. And up on your extended forecast, we're looking at temperatures at 36 degrees on Christmas Day. And as we get to Wednesday through Friday, you see a nice little jump in temperatures there as we go into Thursday and Friday. But Ryan, as I said, that is accompanied by that chance of rainfall that looks to be quite heavy at times. After that, the bottom drops out on those temperatures, and we are going to be dead in the middle of that winter season with temperatures hanging into the middle 30s.
Chris, I know you said we're not going to get a white Christmas tomorrow, but at least, as you said, some light flakes may just make it feel a little bit more like Christmas, because we're going to be up in temperatures more like spring this weekend.
Right. In an effort to not make myself a Grinch, I try and tell everyone the present I'm giving you this year is some warmer temperatures. And hopefully we get those snow flurries during the early morning hours when the children are opening those presents, so it's at least something to look at.
That's right. Not a Grinch this year. All right. Thank you, Chris. Still ahead tonight, preparing for the 2020 presidential election, what some White House hopefuls are doing 13 months out from the Iowa caucus. Stocks closed early for Christmas today, or Christmas Eve, with a huge drop. Here's a look at those closing numbers.
Hello, I'm Master Sergeant Aaron Brackett, stationed at Spangdahlem Air Base, Germany.
We want to wish everyone in Toledo, Ohio a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Rohe Weihnachten from Deutschland. We love and miss you all. Have a very Merry Christmas.
You are watching NBC 24 News at 6.
The end of the year means the beginning of a critical campaign season, the next run for the White House. NBC 24 Chief Political Correspondent Scott Thuman surveys the scene.
If you think it's too early to talk 2020, think again. The always important Iowa caucuses, the first votes, are just over 13 months away, and that means behind the scenes, potential candidates have been contemplating if they have a real chance as real contenders.
For anyone who wants to run in 2020, they need to start raising money.
Experts like Laura Brown say the known quantities garner large quantities of cash, so don't be surprised when you look at the early leaderboard.
Former Vice President Joseph Biden, Senator Elizabeth Warren, Senator Sanders, because the public remembers who they were from 4 years before.
But keep in mind 2008, when a then little-known Barack Obama stole the spotlight, something newcomers like Beto O'Rourke of Texas could try to replicate.
New name comes up, and people in the political world are excited, and they love him or they hate him. And most Americans are just barely beginning to catch the name.
He puts California's Kamala Harris or New Jersey's Cory Booker also in that category. Short on experience but not popularity, outsiders like Mark Cuban, Oprah Winfrey, or The Rock keep getting attention regardless of their own intentions. Though it isn't just a test for Democrats, with President Trump facing possible Republican challengers like retiring Senators Jeff Flake, Bob Corker, or 2016 candidate John Kasich. Most won't declare until after the first or second quarters of fundraising next year, but one who technically already has is Trump, who officially filed the day of his inauguration. In Washington, I'm Scott Thuman.
Hi, I'm Captain Jake Broadman, stationed with the 2nd Infantry Division at Camp Humphreys in Korea. I want to say hi to my amazing family in Tiffin, Ohio, go Buckeyes, and especially to my amazing fiance in Bath, New York. Merry Christmas to you all.
You are watching NBC 24 News at 6.
There it is, one of the most festive drinks during the holidays, eggnog, and most people either love it or hate it. Christmas Eve is National Eggnog Day. The holiday staple traditionally is made with milk, cream, sugar, whipped eggs, and spices. Some people, of course, add liquor. If your family has the perfect recipe, share it on social media using the hashtag National Eggnog Day. And I love buying it at home, Chris, because I'm the only one in my family who seems to enjoy it, so I'm the only one who drinks it. Are you a fan?
You know, Ryan, I am usually not a big fan of the store-bought kind. I say that because just a couple weeks ago, I had some homemade eggnog that this guy made and was absolutely terrific. So I wasn't a big fan, like I said, of the store-bought kind, but some of the homemade brand, it was really, really, really great. Speaking of your temperatures tonight, we're looking at a low of 24 degrees with clearing skies out there. It'll be cool. Tomorrow, looking at a high of 36 with those flurry chances. Have a great Christmas. The winds will be calm. And up on your 7-day forecast, temperatures jumping up through Friday to the mid-50s on Thursday and Friday. However, that's going to be accompanied by a chance of rainfall. And then, Ryan, you see there as we go into the weekend, temperatures are back below normal.
All right, looks good. Thank you so much, Chris. That's going to do it for us tonight at 6. NBC Nightly News is next. We will be back at 11, but of course, if you have other plans, have yourself a very Merry Christmas. This is a live look at Rockefeller Center at the Christmas tree.